Thank you, Marco, for the introduction of the ETF and the INSPIRE Reference Validator. Now we are moving to this part where we are explaining the infrastructure from a more technical perspective. It will be an overview of the ETF and the INSPIRE Reference Validator, and what is more important, because we have seen sometimes in the past, in the chats, in the events that are organized, how the ETF and the INSPIRE Reference Validator are related. Okay, so in this first part, we plan to describe these components at quite in a technical detail, and in the second part we will get deeper into it and reinforce some of the concepts for the users, the admins, and the developers. So first of all, we will start with the ETF, explaining exactly what is, which is the product status. We will go through the repositories to see where it is available for you, and we will get into a little bit of detail of the architecture, which will lead us to the INSPIRE Reference Validator and how it is actually used together with the ETF. As you may know, the INSPIRE Reference Validator is using additional features which are by nature needed to provide the services as they are requested. So starting with the ETF, as Marco has commented before, this is an open source project which has been adopted for the INSPIRE reference validation, given that it provides functionalities to execute standardized validation over data, metadata, and services. These validations are called ETS, as we have commented, which are the executable test suites, which are provided in different programming languages. We will see examples later on in the starter kit, and they are executed and for the data, metadata, and data sets that are provided to the ETF. After that, you obtain a test result in a test report, which is easily readable and can be checked which exact part of the validation your data, metadata, or dataset is failing, which also leads you to correct it and align with the validation. It is very important, and it's key here what has been commented about the API. The ETF is not only the application itself, but also provides an API that allows us to integrate it in different ways for the INSPIRE reference validator. We can have a look to the repository of source code. Here you can find the organization for the ETF and which are the main repositories that the ETF has for its proper work. We have many of them because it has a normalized structure where it has a lot of components, but we want to emphasize the ETF web app, which compiles all the necessary components and the releases that are available here. Okay, there are two versions, two latest versions that deserve to be highlighted, which are the 2.1 and the 2.0. Okay, these versions provide you with the artifacts to deploy the ETF itself, so you can configure it to test the ETS. Said that, you have also available, we wanted to highlight the three ways that the ETF has to validate. As we have commented, it uses ETS, executable test suites, but it's doing it through different test drivers. These test drivers are one of them based on base queries in xQuery, where you configure your ETS using this language. You have also the SWAP UI test driver, which is also available for this kind of validations. And the third one, more important, let's say, because it has an external integration of the ETF for the OGC team engine services, where the WFS Direct, WFS 2.0, and also the the OGC API features are validated against the OGC services. Then, if you, well, once you know more or less where the source code and the artifacts are located, it's important to highlight the documentation that is available for the user. We will go into detail into practical cases into the starter kits program well after the coffee break, but it's important to highlight that there are ETF manuals available. These manuals are at three levels: the user manual, the admin manual, and the developer manual. And you have here how to progress on it. But this is important to let you know that it has been updated recently, the manuals, in order to know how to exactly deal and deploy the ETF, and also to operate with the source code, and how to set up a workspace environment if you want to adapt the source code to your need, to specific needs, or contribute to the project. In any case, this practical case will be also covered in the training in a later stage for the starter kits for developers. Then, as we have commented before, it's important to highlight the two versions that are available for the ETF. As we have commented before, there is the 2.1, which is the latest version available, which has been released in 2022, and is also the one that is used for OSGeo Live. And if you download the OSGeo Live version, you will find the whole deployment there. You will find the ETF ready to be used, and you will find this version. For the INSPIRE Reference Validator, we are using a version, a 2.0 version, which has some enhancements that have contributed. Some of them have been provided to the 2.1 version, but not all of them, because the 2.1 version includes a little bit more of functionality, of enhancements. And this 2.0 version for the INSPIRE Reference Validator is adapted to specific needs that were not covered by the 2.0 version. Marco has commented also about the governance, and a little bit of to let you know how it actually works with the governance, and how the relation of the INSPIRE Reference Validator and the ETF is when there is a development that we think, or the steering group thinks that is relevant for the ETF. It is created an enhancement, an EIP, an improvement proposal, and that improvement proposal ends in a pull request to the ETF version corresponding branch, and it is incorporated to a new version. And this is how the INSPIRE Reference Validator contributes to the maintenance and enhancement of the ETF. As well, we have visited before, but just to again let you know that you can find the versions and the exact features and bug fixes included in each of them in the ETF repository. Then let's get a little bit into the ETF components. As we have said before, it has a lot of products, subproducts that are used in the ETF web app. This is don't be scared. This is just the concept, and the ETF web app, which is what you need to download, is the main deployment artifact that is actually needed, and it makes use of these core components. But we wanted to emphasize again these three. These three components, the basics test driver, the team engine test driver, and the swap UI test driver, are key for the ETF because they are the ones that provide the test drivers, are the modules that provide the capabilities to create and to execute the executable test suite. As commented, using xQuery, using SwapUI and Groovy, and also using external resource, which is the team engine. With all of these capabilities for managing the ETS plus the ETS itself, when you introduce your data, metadata, or services, you finally obtain the test report. This is a very, very first introduction on what we are going to see about the architecture, but will provide it help us to better understand and simplify what is coming next, which is the INSPIRE Reference Validator architecture, to see it in context. So, as commented also before, we have open source products on where the ETF relies. These are the test drivers libraries, and we wanted to mention some of the main open source products that it's actually using. First of all, Java, you have OpenJDK in order to compile and deploy. We have also the Jetty as a web component server, and we wanted to emphasize the use of Degree as the spatial library, spatial operations library that the ETF is using in order to make all the spatial validations. Degree is used, for example, to see if the order is clockwise or counterclockwise for the polygons. So if it is complete, if there are overlaps or not, all the validations, spatial validations, are used in Degree. And as well as the INSPIRE Reference Validator has contributed back to the ETF with some improvements, the INSPIRE Reference Validator itself, when we have found some issues with Degree, have also contributed to Degree project. So the community, so all the things that are found by the INSPIRE community are in a way returned back to the community through the different products we are using. Now let's move to now that we have an overview of the of the ETF, and let's start moving to the API, which is the main key to understand how we are using it. There are sometimes it can be confusing whether the INSPIRE Reference Validator is an ETF or is the ETF or is only the ETF or not. Well, we will see later, but the INSPIRE Reference Validator uses the ETF. How does the INSPIRE Reference Validator uses the ETF? It uses it through the API. The ETF provides an API with operations for monitoring the service and the capabilities, but also for managing all the tests that you can do with ETF. So you can start a test, upload resources, see how the test is going, and so on. We have the Swagger. It follows an open API approach. So it has a Swagger available, a Swagger interface that you can see here. As it has been commented, the session is recorded and the presentation will be provided, so no worries about that. And you will be able to do all the exercise. Also, the resources will be available. So you have here the Swagger API, where you can see all the methods that are available. Then you have examples to run it, and a detailed description in case you want to do it by yourself. As Marco commented before, you may have the need to deploy it at your premises or make your own validation or massive validations. So our recommendation there is you have your own instance of the INSPIRE Reference Validator, and then you make a good use of the API in order to automatize that kind of processes. We will see a practical example of how to use Swagger UI with Postman, just a proof of concept, but that is easily movable to, well, to an ETL process or whatever batch process that could be in your premises. Then this is a screenshot, a sample of what we are going to see later on how we can use with a client, in this case, Postman, to execute a method of the ETF API. And now we have been introducing the ETF, but let's move to the INSPIRE Reference Validator. As we have commented before, the INSPIRE Reference Validator is using the ETF, but it's not only the ETF, because INSPIRE has, well, the ETF is a product made in order to execute validations based on ETS, following a standard, an ETS and an ETS. And following that concept, the INSPIRE Reference Validator is using its own validations coming from the technical guidance, producing the ATS, the abstract test suites, and also the executable test suites. So having this in the repositories, the INSPIRE Reference Validator has the rules to operate the validations through the data, metadata, and services. But more information or more user-friendly interfaces or more functionalities can be made available through the INSPIRE Reference Validator. And this is why a validator UI, a specific validator interface, was developed, which is this one that you are probably familiar with it. This UI, what makes is to provide with a concrete and a very oriented interface to the INSPIRE Reference Validator needs to an user and make use of the ETF API. This is the basic concept of the INSPIRE Reference Validator, and on top of it, in order to produce all it, there is an architecture in place. But before moving to the architecture, I would like to quickly share. We will keep sharing the screen because it's important. Here on the left, we have the ETF, where we can see the test, the part of where you can choose a test. As you can see, it is here. You can do it. You have the description of the test, and you can use it. And press start. And it is similar to the INSPIRE Reference Validator, but you can see that the configuration that we have made for the interface is quite more, in our opinion, direct and applicable and oriented to the INSPIRE validations. Okay, so but you can see this is the similarities, and then you can see the results. When you execute a test report, you have a result there. And what you can see here is that these are the same. Why is it the same? Because what we have commented before, the UI is using the ATF API, but is providing the results through the INSPIRE Reference Validator UI. But this UI is using an ETF, and the ETF has its own interface. So this very short explanation was made to illustrate how we are using the INSPIRE Reference Validator is using the ETF, and to clarify if the INSPIRE Reference Validator, a question that is very recurrent, is or not an ETF. Yes, there is an ETF, and it is used by a specific interface, but it has more than an ETF, which is what we are seeing now. Okay. So here we will see it in more detail in the part of the admins. We will explain how all the components of the INSPIRE Reference Validator are related between them. But you can imagine this is not an easy architecture, but only for you to know how the flow of the information is made here. in the INSPIRE Reference Validator and how the ETF is used. We have the user, who has data or data set of services and is having the UI. The UI is the one that we have seen before, the UI, the blue UI, let's say the INSPIRE Reference Validator UI. It makes the request, and this request goes to a module which is an Apache, which makes some operations here in order to to channel the information. It goes to the ETF through the API, and then the ETF makes use of the ATSs and produce a test report. But before producing the test report, it is important to let you know that in the process of executing an ETS, it has to collect and connect to external resources. And a very good example of this are either the registry or the team engine or some other resources, schemas that you have defined in your premises and that kind of resources. So for this, it's important to highlight that there is a specific cache architecture that makes also deal with issues like redirections. So for external resources, we have here some additional logic to the ETF that makes the INSPIRE Reference Validator fully compliant with the actual needs that the INSPIRE community has. Meaning that the ETF, for security reasons, and it's not a problem of the ETF but of Java itself, does not, when we are using the libraries for validations, redirections, URLs are considered to be final. But this is because a security measure of Java. So it has a limitation in the sense that if you have something published under HTTP, as the registry has, because it has to keep compliance with older protocols like HTTP, although everything is published only on HTTPS, but HTTP has to be available. And every request that is made to an HTTP is redirected to HTTPS. The ETF cannot handle that. Java cannot handle that, so we have to put something in the middle in order to handle that. And this is one of the main key differences that and enhancements that the INSPIRE Reference Validator has on its architecture in order to make the validations available to the INSPIRE community using the ETF. So we are complementing the ETF with that functionality. And well, as we have commented before, we have the 2.0 version, and we have specific adaptations to validation needs, to WMS, and we have some other fixes incorporated to the 2.0, additional features that are available. And well, we have also here a screenshot of we have commented before. I thought it's more or less covered in this part, but we have the INSPIRE Reference Validator to illustrate that all of these requests that are made and that are used to provide you with the results of a validation are made through the API of the INSPIRE, sorry, of the ETF. So let's move to the next one. Maybe as we commented before, we have the UI of the INSPIRE Reference Validator. This UI offers not only a more user-friendly and direct access to the kind of validations that the INSPIRE community has, but also has a control on the usage of this. This control is added through two channels. One of them is the CAPTCHA. We have a CAPTCHA, so an user has to be proved he or she is human in order to to execute a validation, and if well, that will simplify, that solves a misusage or a massive usage for a human person, but it doesn't prevent that some attacks could occur or massive issues could be done through the API, because the API has to be available for the UI. So in order to prevent these massive validations, it has also been implemented as part of the INSPIRE Reference Validator, an API gateway that we will also cover in detail in the starter kit, how to use it, where the users that have the need to use automated requests to the production, to the instance of the INSPIRE Reference Validator, can use it with limitations. Because the first option for any of the users, and this is what this training is also about, is to encourage the community to use their own instances of the INSPIRE Reference Validator in your own premises, where you will have all the infrastructure and capabilities available for you. But for those of you or that people from the community who has not the possibility to have it in the premises and have the need to perform validations, the API is offered for them. So we will detail later how to request access to the API and how it is managed and how the tokens that are provided are to be used. Then, as we commented also before, another basic part of the validation for the ETF is to have a proper set of ETS. In an ETF, you could configure any ETS. It is open for whatever purpose. So in our particular case, the ETS that has been created are the ETS related with INSPIRE validation, and all of them are available. We assume we know that all of you are familiar with this structure, and this is all available in the ETS repository, and provided in each of the releases. The latest version of the ETS is available. You have the ETS repository for all the data, metadata and services, and it is updated through the help desk, and well, the process to update the CTS come from the need that the community has. The CTS, as commented, have been produced according to the technical guidance, which have come in an ATS, and finally in an ETS with a structure that we will see in detail later. And it is available in a repository. This repository is downloaded by the ETF and used in real time to perform the validation. In case that these validations don't apply, you need that the validations apply to your data and metadata and services. You will obtain the test report and you will act accordingly to align it. But there are some times that the community discovers some bugs in the ATS or proposes changes on how it is focused, and through issues in the help desk, we attend it and provide a solution or feedback, or in case a modification or an adaptation in the ATS. So all these changes that are requested and needed for the validations are incorporated in this repository. Then the ETF download it all and have it locally in order to have them available to execute it. And finally, it is important again to emphasize and highlight the relation that is had with external resources, not only with the registry for schemas, code list, and so on, but also the integration with an organization as the OEC. We are using the OGC site, the team engine, in order to execute the validations for WFS Direct, WFS 2.0, and also for the OGC API features. What is an example and a very good exercise of cooperation between two organizations and a success on how the standardization, the OGC, the standardization and the implementation of standards with ETS and APIs and interfaces works. So when you have a validation of these download services, just to emphasize that we are using the validations from the OGC for good and bad. I mean, we have this dependency there. It's a good cooperation, but sometimes the we need to attend and to coordinate actions in order to address some issues, and which could take more longer than if we are talking about ETS or validation that are managed by ourselves. So, in summary, for this first part of the technical introduction, we wanted to make clear these two concepts, at a technical level, but still a high level, of the ETF, the product, and the components, and how it can work as a standalone, and can be particularized for your needs if you want to incorporate your own ETS, and then how the INSPIRE Reference Validator uses it in its own architecture, which has more enhancements, and through all these components, which is the ETF 2.0, the UI using the API, the INSPIRE ATS and ETS, and the integration for this ETS with an external source, which is the team engine.